live. I have to finish this chapter of Piyannah and Raki. This one here is entitled Brown Feathers. It's the ordeal Piyannah has to go through to become a brave and to run the tribe with Raki. They want to change the customs of this, of the way of the people. This place thousands of years ago, 10,000 pops into my mind, but it might be wrong. And it's the story of Raki and Piyannah. They were born as outcasts into an American Indian tribe many thousand years ago. And their mother, Piyannah's mother, Raki is her cousin, raised them both, and she was strong enough to defy tribal customs and to defy the chief, Nakachi. So, what is now happening is that they want to run a tribe together, Raki and Piyannah, and it is written by Joan Grant. She was a wonderful writer. She wrote far memories from her own lives, and this is one of her remarkable lives, I would say, and it's got wonderful descriptions. And although she was well known as a writer, Winged Pharaoh and Life of Carola and other novels she has written, or books, they're not novels, they're true stories, if you so choose to believe. Anyway, so she's done the first part of this ordeal. She has successfully finished. Yet now she's on her second big task, which is, she's in the middle of it, and she has to survive without fire for 7 days and go to particular points and reach to the end point at the right time with the right things to show that she's done this journey on her own. I dared not sleep, for I had to guard my hands and feet from the frost demons which crept up to attack them, keeping constantly alert to rub them with snow when they began to lose feeling. Pain is safety in intense cold, for numbness soon drifts into the greater numbness of death. It's a bit loud, isn't it? When I felt the demons luring me to sleep, I stumbled outside to swing my arms and stamp my feet until I felt the blood rushing free as water under ice. I had to dig my way out in the grey dawn, and so it was so cold that I killed the first snow hare I saw. Its blood was warm and salt and life, the drops brilliant as a scarlet feather against the snow. I hated the cold that had driven me to colour its creeping whiteness with a bright blaze of death. Hated it even more than I hated myself for betraying the hare, who was also trying to withstand the challenge of the winter. That night I huddled in a shallow cave and scraped a sleeping place in the fine gravel of the floor. The snow had stopped, but there was still a high wind. Icicles hung from a branch which swept down over the narrow entrance and clattered against each other with the sharp sound of a skeleton hanging in a tree, a skeleton whose sinews still held the bones into a semblance of life. The idea of the tinkling bones grew stronger until I could almost see the skeleton of the black feather whom Raki and I found 5 moons after the battle. He must have climbed the tree to hide and wedged his body into the crotch between 2 great branches, while the blood, which still stained the bark, slowly drained from his wounds. Even though he was a black feather, I hoped that he had died before the buzzards came to clean his bones. I felt myself sinking into the cold and tried to send my spirit to our little valley to find out whether Raki was already there, waiting for me. If he had been trapped by the cold, it would be so easy to join him, for the cold was kind unless you fought against it. To sleep would be so easy. To sleep would be to find myself in the warmth of our valley, where it was always summer. I thought I could see the corn cobs lying where we had left them. I called Raki, Raki, but no one came down the path by the stream or from the friendly woods to answer me. If Raki had been there, he would surely have come. Raki must be alive, I said aloud, and the icicles seemed to whisper, Raki is alive. I stood up, stamping my feet, swinging my arms, until feeling returned to my hands and I could move my fingers. Because of Raki, I'm stronger than the cold. He's my fire, my sun, my warmth, for love is stronger than cold and separation than darkness. I slept, and when I woke, the snow outside was brilliant with sunshine and the sky a strong blue. I took off my sodden tunic and spread them on a rock to dry. The light and heat that were part of Raki soaked into me and gave me their strength. I knew that the Lord of Winter had challenged me, and because I had met his challenge, I had been accepted as a friend. I set off in a clean white world which blazed with light as though it reflected the watchfires of 1,000 tribes. I knew that Raki and I would both return to the encampment in safety, that every night I could find trees to give me shelter, that I should see the stars steadfast in the sky, while the grey clouds of death lurked beyond the mountains. I knew this was true, and on the 7th day it was so. As I came down the western slope to the circle of teepees, I saw Raki coming down the path from the east. Never had a winter passed so slowly, but at least we heard the thunderous cracking of the ice as the river began to move with the urge of spring. I knew that soon the listener would be ready to hear my challenge for the last ordeal. I had often been on the lower slopes of the mountain, climbing from steep slopes of scree into the high moraine, and the previous summer Gorky and I had reached the foot of the last towering pinnacle that looked like a finger of a great hunter pointing the way to his home. Raki had made the ascent in the autumn. I knew it must be very difficult, for he was frightened for me. I promised to send a smoke signal when I began the climb, and another as soon as I was safely down. Raki could not come with me, for the ordeals must always be undertaken alone. But he was going to wait near the foot of the precipice with Gorky and Takini, who had also passed this ordeal while I was hunting the grizzly. If they did not receive the second smoke signal, they would know I must have fallen and come to find me. The rock was honest, so that even a toehold would bear my full weight, but nowhere was there a ledge wide enough to rest on, so a precarious balance had to be maintained without a break. There was not even a thorn bush on the whole smooth expanse above me to give an illusion of safety. The whole of me was contracted to the urgent need of smoothly changing my weight from one hand to the other. I forgot every other texture except the wind-polished surface of rock as I desperately searched for a small projection or narrow crack strong enough for me to dare a shift of position. Once I nearly fell and had to cling by one hand to a knife edge, which cut the palm so deeply that blood ran down my forearm and splashed my neck before I could draw myself up to a safer hold. An eagle dived out of the sky so close that I could feel the wind of its wings. I hung motionless, knowing that if it attacked, I should fall sheer to the rocks below. Twice I heard the sweeping of its wings and waited for the deadly tear of its beak. Then it soared until it became a dark fleck against the blue, hard sky. Because my left hand was slippery with blood, it was increasingly difficult to keep a firm hold. I had been climbing in shadow and for a long time had not dared to look down, in case it made me giddy. Suddenly, that the sun was shining full on me. The knowledge that I must be nearing the top gave me courage to lean outwards, so that I could see directly above me. There was a narrow ledge leading upwards and to the right. It was no wider than the palm of my hand, but after the sparse hold it seemed as secure as the path beside a river. It led me out of the shadows, to the pinnacle rock which crowns the listener. Relief was so intense that I had to lie down, for my legs refused to carry me any further. My teeth chattered, as though I was very cold, but I could feel sweat trickling down my body. It was not yet important that I was now one of the brown feathers, for they loved endurance, and I only craved rest. Rest on safe, flat ground, where there would never be a danger of falling. Then I thought of Raki and how there were no longer ordeals to keep us apart. Weariness was forgotten. I stood upright, my hands upstretched to the sky, and gave thanks to the great hunters, who in love had brought me nearer to their country, even than the crest of their listener. That is the end of this. She now has a brown feather, and the next chapter is The Bridge. Enjoy Tuesday. It's my birthday today. I shall party.